a vacation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how much it costs to go to my denomination's General Assembly versus how much it'll cost me to, have spending money and doing stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is starting January 1, I would start putting X amount of dollars aside that's within my budget to help pay for or to fund that entire vacation without having to pull money out of my savings or pull money out of the budget to pay for it. Like it's already budgeted for.
Right. Yeah. If you've got money in excess over what you've budgeted for and you want to go buy something, talk about that with your spouse. If you guys agree, I'm totally fine with that. But what we don't want to do is be taking money from an emergency savings just to make basic purchases. And also, if we can't purchase something that we want right away, like I said, if we don't have the cash to do it, then we don't do it. We save the money until we can. So if it's just a want and it's not a need, we need to be, like I said, have delayed gratification and save up the money over time, like what you're talking about with going on vacation. Save up the money over time and then go buy that item if you still want it.
Okay, that's perfect. I love that. Okay, so Brennan, I want you to tell us, why is it so important for us to be aware of our bad spending habits?
Well, because if we don't understand our weaknesses when it comes to personal finance, they will eat us alive. If I don't understand, for example, let's say that I'm a spender. I believe in almost every marriage, there's a spender and a saver. Neither one of you is wrong. Neither one of you is, has a problem more than the other or anything like that. It's just we have different views on marriage generally, or on spending within a marriage generally. So as an example, I'm more of a saver. My wife is more of a spender. If he doesn't recognize her, how easy it is for her to just go and spend money without really thinking it through, and she's just spending left and right, we're going to end up with no money, right? So then I'm there to balance that out. If I don't understand that there's more to do with money than just save it, if she doesn't come in and balance that out in me, I'm going to have absolutely no life. And so we really need to understand who we are with money and how we can balance each other.
Yeah, I know this couple that I'm not going to mention names, but I know this couple, and they have the whole joint checking account, whole 9 yards, all that good stuff. And I used to work at Office Depot. So the guy walks in and he is there to get one thing. He gets it, and then he sees something else that he thinks he needs and would be good for his office. So he pulls his phone out. He's like, let me text the wife. And he texts his wife, hey, can we afford this? And, she responds back, yeah, go ahead and get it. And it's like, you literally text your wife in order to, and at the time I didn't understand it because I was so young and stupid. You texting your wife to make sure you can buy something. Who does that? And he explained to me, well, joint account, we got to make sure we're saving money and doing what we're supposed to do properly instead of spending everything that comes in. So I actually learned a valuable point that day just by this gentleman walking in the store to buy something, seeing something that he wanted, although he can use, and then texting his wife to make sure the purchase was okay.
Right. Yeah. It's really important to make sure that we're communicating well. And if, for example, when we have something come up that's not in the budget, we always check with each other before making the purchase. And it builds, like I was saying, it really builds a whole new demographic to the marriage by adding layers of trust, communication, all those types of things play into something so small like what you're talking about. But using money is a daily thing that we're doing as a married couple. And so we really need to make sure that we are treating that with the same amount of effort as we are other things in our marriage.
Right. Absolutely. And if we're not communicating, then that's when the problems happen. Then that's when the marriage or the relationship starts to break down by not communicating. Right. All right. So moving on, how might bad spending habits impact future spending options?
Well, you're going to end up with no money, right? I mean, if you've got bad spending habits and you're not figuring that out and you're not starting to control them and change them, you're going to end up with no money, and you're going to have three best friends, broke, desperate, and stupid. You don't want those You don't want them hanging around you. So the thing is to recognize those bad habits within your marriage, especially recognize those in each other and work on communicating through those and figuring out how to get beyond them so that they're not ending up wrecking the entire marriage later down the road. Absolutely.
Now, I know the question to this next, I know the answer to this next question, but I want you to go in depth with it. Okay. If one party of the married couple has bad spending habits, or they both have bad spending habits, how can the married couple create better spending habits?
One of the best ways to create good spending habits is, just like we said in, I think, the first episode or the first couple, it's going to come down to consistently and accurately budgeting together, being realistic, working out your plan, and just getting it as solid as possible. Communicating thoroughly on that is going to help you both stay accountable, and it's going to make sure that your spending habits stop being so negative if they are. Because what it's going to do when you sit down and make your budget, you guys allow yourselves to spend X amount on X category. So let's say groceries, for example. When we sit down and we write down groceries and we have our income there, so we know how much we have to spend on all of our expenses, well, we choose a number that fits within our income, and we say, okay, we're going to spend $700 this month on groceries. Well, when you write that down, you guys need to spit, shake, and pinky swear that you're not going to go beyond that number. And if you'll do that, the budget will keep you accountable, and it'll help you stay on track and eliminate those bad spending habits.
Gotcha. So that's very smart. Now, this next one, it brings it all together. The whole point of this podcast is to kind of bring the Christian aspect to all of this. So my next question is, should the married couple make financial decisions to conform to God's word and will?
Yes. I mean, if we're not conforming to his word and his will, I personally don't really believe that we can call ourselves believers. That's what a believer does. We conform to his word and to his will. So when we're following his word and his will in our lives, in our marriages, things are obviously naturally going to go better for us. We have to be doing that.
Okay, perfect. So with that being said, how would a married couple spend money wisely? And if they are conforming to God's word, how can they break their bad spending habits?
So, I mean, going to the word is going to be the number one answer here, right? There's so much wisdom there within the Bible, within the scriptures, that we get all of the basics that we need to understand how to operate within personal finance, even in our modern system today that's completely different than it may have been back then when the scriptures were written. A lot of those things still apply to us today. Things like, work hard. If you don't work, you don't eat. You come into poverty. Make sure that you know where to draw the line with your money. Money does not save you. Money doesn't profit you from the day of wrath or anything like that. Making sure that we're not borrowing, because the borrower is servant to the lender. Making sure that we're giving very generously. Making sure that we're doing all the things that the scriptures tell us to do with our blessings, with the things that the Father pours onto us as blessings. That's going to be our guide, and that's what's going to really help us have the right spending habits, help us have a healthy financial life within our marriage.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're talking about the Bible and we're talking about God's word. What does the Bible say about all this? Do you have any Bible verses that can help us along this journey?
I mean, there's a lot, and we've covered some throughout the last few episodes, but I think some of the most basic ones are kind of what I just loosely and maybe badly paraphrased. But there's things like, here's an example, Proverbs 10:4, a slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. So what we can take away from that is, number one, being lazy causes us to be in poverty. If we have any kind of poverty, especially in this country, if we are of sound mind and of willing and able body, then we should not be in poverty, because the only other reason we would be in poverty today, in this day and age, in most cases, maybe not every case, but as I'm generalizing, What causes poverty is slack hands, being lazy, right? But the hand of the diligent makes rich. So not only do we need to be diligent, working hard, being very purpose driven, we also need to be doing that within our personal finances as well. So being diligent with personal finance looks like what I constantly talk about: accurately and consistently budgeting. That's called diligence. And what does it do? It makes you rich. And that's not the goal, right? Our goal is not to become rich. It's just a byproduct of being diligent.
Okay.
There's more things. There's more. Let's see. Here's one about kind of drawing the line. Proverbs 11:4. Riches do not profit in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. So we need to understand where to draw the line with money, with the blessings that the Father gives us. They are to serve one purpose, especially in our day and age, and that is to be able to function in the society that we live in. That's it. If it comes down to, I get a lot of questions like, well, I don't want to invest in a mutual fund that's tied up in the stock market, in companies that are functioning within the stock market, because what if the market crashes? I'd rather just invest in gold or silver or whatever, because then if something happens, I won't lose all my money. And anyways, the gold and the silver are gods, and just this whole bit is what I get from people. But the thing is, we need to understand we are to do the very best we can do with the blessings he gives us. And if we look at gold and silver, the track record of that as an investment, it's horrendous. It's absolutely terrible. It's gained like 2% per year. That's what it has profited, 2% per year for the last, 70 years. Whereas if we look at the stock market, it's averaged 10% per year for the last probably 70 years also. And we can find mutual funds that outperform the stock market. And so if we're going to be doing the best that we can do with the blessings that he gives us, we're going to be investing wisely without the intent of saving ourselves in case of a crisis. We're going to be doing it just because we're trying to do the best with what we have, and for no other purpose than that. We're just trying to do our best. We're not doing it to save ourselves. We're not doing it to, do anything outside of hoping to save up an inheritance. But if God decides to change things in our economy, in our culture, and in the stock market or whatever, then there's other things going on and there's bigger issues to focus on. Riches are not going to profit us in the end times or when things start going crazy. Righteousness is what delivers us from death.
I totally agree. And what I want the listeners to realize is that we're not sitting here talking about a prosperity gospel. Or obviously, I hate the prosperity gospel. It serves no purpose and it's unhealthy. If you want to look at this from a biblical standpoint, you're not saved by your riches. You're not saved by your wealth. You are saved by grace alone, through faith alone. That's it.
That's right. And you're not saved by your giving.
Absolutely. You're not
None
saved.
Of that.
Yeah.
None of that.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to throw this question in here, and this is a simple yes or no because I don't want to get too political. But let's say a person was receiving government assist to help them financially along the way. And if they are a believer, should they stay on that government assist, or should they continue to receive government assistance?
Yeah, that's a tough question because, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's really circumstantial. If it's a case where this person is just using that government assistance and using it as an excuse to be lazy and not get out there and try to do something for themselves, and maybe they're not getting any help from the community or the body of believers or anything like that, those are very different things. If they're just using it because it's there and they qualify, and they're not getting out and trying to do anything or become anyone better, I think that's a major issue within that person. That's a major character flaw. But it's really hard to answer because it's so circumstantial. There's going to be some cases where someone does need government assistance, at least for a time.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen families that, use it for the right reason, and I've seen some abuse it, obviously. Mm-hmm. Well, right. I want to give the audience a resource that I came across. It's this book by Jerry B. Jenkins called Hedges. It's called Hedges, you're loving your marriage enough to protect it. And this book